I have a period of silence every single day for about 2 hours. Now, I need to be alone in solitude and silence for about 4 hours before I see you. It's not that I don't like you, it's just that mankind, I just need some space away from them for just a little while before we start to. I don't like anybody before 9 a.m. Come on, who's real? You know what I mean? You need 3 or 4 cups of coffee, a Pepsi, a Mountain Dew, and a Starbucks just before we're ready to talk. You know what I'm saying? I love this period of 2 hours in my 4 hours that I'm silent. I need silence, and I didn't used to need silence so much when I was in college or when I was single. Or, I really began needing silence when I had kids. Oh, you realize very quickly once you have children, silence is a gift. Oh, sometimes there have been moments, I didn't say this in the last service, I'm so grateful for Apple. When they made the noise canceling feature in those headphones, I have popped those in before with children running around and noise canceled them out just to experience the gift of silence. Oh, silence is something that I need it like I need oxygen. I'm telling you, silence can be so beneficial in so many ways. When you're silent before God, He has a way of tuning your heart to His. Silence has a way of slowing you down from all the busyness and the hustle and the bustle of the world. Silence is a gift that once you tap into moments of silence, you'll never go back, because silence is an escape from all the noise. In fact, silence is so important to us. I looked up a couple of psychological journals that talked about just the benefits we can receive from having extended periods of silence. Here's 6 of them. 1, silence has been found to stimulate brain growth. It's been found to stimulate brain growth, and a study into brain structure and function found that a minimum of 2 hours of silence could result in the creation of new brain cells in the area of our brains linked to learning and recall. 2, noise affects our stress levels by raising cortisol and adrenaline. And a study in journal Heart in 2006 found that silence can relieve tension in less than 2 minutes. 2 minutes can start to relieve cortisol. Silence is more relaxing for your body and brain than listening to music is. Periods of silence throughout the day enhances sleep and lessens insomnia. If you're not sleeping good, maybe you need to take periods of silence. Silence actually helps you concentrate by increasing your ability to focus, and an article on Medium explained that visionaries Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton worked almost exclusively alone for the majority of their lives because of how important silence is to the success of the creative process. So if you're not feeling very creative, it may be because you're not very silent. And I know we pause in life to take moments of silence. I'll never forget September 11th, 2002, on the 1-year anniversary of the Twin Towers falling. It was like all of America was silent, all at one time. Just a hush that fell over the nation as we remembered that moment. We take pauses of silence to remember. I'm silent sometimes because I'm listening to what's being said. I'm silent because I'm focused sometimes on what's going on. I'm silent because I'm absorbed in my craft. Don't nobody bother me while I'm absorbed in my craft. I'm silent. I'm silent sometimes because I'm at peace. But there's one type of silence that scares me to death. It's a type of silence that can really trigger something inside of you. It can make you worry. It can make you anxious. It can make you highly concerned. It's the silence between you and other people that create the gap of uncertainty. And this silence is what I call noisy silence. Because some people will behave silent in their behavior, and they will have loud and noisy thoughts in their head. And you could see it on their face. You were gifted with the gift of discernment to some capacity. It's not brain science on how to read people. There's most of the time you just look and you'll say, why is he quiet? You're just looking and you know that behavioral silence right there is telling me a whole lot more. And there's some gizmos going off in the brain. Why does she not say anything? What's going on in that one's head? I see something, but I hear silence. Here it is. Quiet people make us queasy. I'm telling you, there is a silence that will become a barrier and will become a ruiner because silence kills. Oh, the silence will deafen you. The silence will draw up tension. The silence can be so thick. Some of us, we get so uncomfortable with periods of silence. Some of y'all are ready to leave right now. It's too much. And you feel that in certain relationships. And all of a sudden you get that knot in your gut and the quietness just, it freaks you out. And there's too much tension. And you know that the silence is not good, that silence personally in my life can be beneficial, but silence relationally is worrisome. Has Jesus ever gone silent on you? There's my question. When you feel silence from heaven and you're wondering what in the world is going on, Mary and Martha had a bit of silence from Jesus. And the silence, it haunted their relationship. And I want to talk today about the silent killers of relationships. And the only thing I have to tell you as a one-point sermon is simply this. The message entitled today, Break the Silence. That's today's message. Break the silence. Look at somebody and say, it's time to break the silence. Let me take you to John 11. John chapter 11, verse 1. And hear these words from our Father. Listen to this great story that we will unpack here momentarily. Now, a man named Lazarus was sick, and he was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And this Mary, whose brother Lazarus now lay sick, was the same one who poured perfume on the Lord and wiped his feet with her hair. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. And when he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. And then he said to his disciples, let us go back to Judea. And then Thomas, also known as Didymus, said to the rest of the disciples, let us all go that we may die with him. Didymus is his nickname that Jesus gave him, and that actually means twin. It does. Thomas changed his name to Didymus. And on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. And now Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem, and many Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them in the loss of their brother. And when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha answered, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she replied, so reluctant. Yes, Lord. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God who is to come into the world. And after she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. "The teacher is here," she said, "and is asking for you." When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. And when the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. And when Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he's been there 4 days." And then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Before we unpack this, there is a law at play that we all have to understand. There's a law that Dr. Darius Daniel says is the law of intentionality. And it's a law that God himself lives by, which simply states this, that every move God makes is intentional. Meaning God doesn't do anything accidentally, and he doesn't do anything unintentionally. Therefore, that means when God is doing something, he's doing something. But it also means that when God is doing nothing, he's doing something. Because he's doing nothing intentionally. And if he's doing nothing intentionally, it stands to reason that he's doing something. Now, this is encouraging for us to even think about, but it is wildly unnerving because you and I have no idea what that something is that he's doing. You don't get to know. You don't get to know all of the intentional things that Jesus chooses to do. And under the law of intentionality, it stands to reason that this is at play because Mary and Martha send word to Jesus and they write something down or they send a messenger, one of the two, we're not quite sure. And as they arrive to Jesus in another city, "Lord, the one you love, Lazarus, he's sick." Jesus decides to stay exactly where he is for 2 days, doing nothing intentionally. But the first line of the text says this: "This will not end in death." So he stays where he is for 2 days, does nothing, and right around that 2-day marker, "Okay, let's go. It's time. We're ready to ride. Disciples, get up. Thomas, let's go. We're headed there." And then he takes off. And then as soon as this takes place, you got to humanize the story a little bit. You got to humanize the story some. Because there's an expectation here that Martha and Mary have. We see that expectation when Martha finally sees him. "Lord, if you would have been here, my brother wouldn't have died," which therefore gives us clues, context clues, that the silence was killing them. You got to see Martha in the house where Lazarus was, and she goes to the back bedroom, and she's watching Lazarus take his dying breaths, and she's already sent word to Jesus, and so she runs to the front, and I could just see her looking out the window. I wonder where he'll be. I'm sure Jesus is on the way. I'm sure Jesus is coming. I'm sure he's out there. I need to go check on Lazarus again. It goes back, and Mary's there, and Martha. Now they're looking at Lazarus, their dying brother, and the only hope they've got is that somewhere Jesus is there. And I could see her going back and forth and looking out the door now and just trying to see with this expectation that he would arrive. Night passes. She goes to sleep, wakes up the next day. Same scenario. Goes and looks at Lazarus, and Lazarus is getting worse, and the condition is setting in, and so now she runs out expecting to see Jesus. Surely Jesus would I bet he'll be running today. I can't wait to see his entourage coming with him. He's got his robe lifted up, and I bet he's just running because he loves Lazarus and he loves us. Where is he? And the day passes and no Lazarus, and then the next day. And at some point, you have to realize that this whole ordeal turns into frustration, turns into anger. Oh, Jesus, where are you? And somewhere along the way, Lazarus passes away. Jesus is nowhere in sight. The silence from God, the silence from the Son of Man is so overbearing, she gets emotional, distraught, and Mary and Martha start having a conversation. If he would have been here, our brother would not have died. So somewhere along the way, Jesus rolls up on the scene. And Martha decides she's going to go out to meet him. Mary decides to give him the silent treatment. Mary said, I'm staying at home. Want nothing to do with him. Martha, you go right ahead. You tell him whatever you want to tell him. I don't have anything to say to him. Across her arms, she just stays inside the house, and then we see the scene set before us. Lord, if you would have been here. First thing I want you to know, the silent killer of relationships is unmet expectations. The silent killer in relationships with God and with people are unmet expectations. Look, she expected God to arrive, and what her reality that she wanted, she was expecting, was for him to meet the expectation to heal Lazarus. He's healed. This is amazing, and for him to walk off the scene. But the expectation she had was not the reality she received. And any time that your reality is lower than your expectation, there is a line between the two, and the discrepancy is called disappointment. Disappointment sets in her voice, and you could see it. And the silent killer of trust now is disappointment. The silent killer in any trusting relationship is when you've expected something that you did not receive, and because you're disappointed, you can no longer trust, and now we have all this silence that's just eating everybody away. By the way, this sermon can't be overstated. This is happening all the time. You go through the fast food drive-thru, you have an expectation, baby. You have an expectation for that food to be promptly delivered to your window. It better have the bacon and the cheese and the mayonnaise and the salt and 14 other items we add to it. It can't be easy, right? And if they get it wrong, the reality was not what you expected, and you are now disappointed, and you are frustrated, and you are angry, and even a little emotional. You're going to pull in that parking spot. I tell them right now, I bless God. And Lord help us if we get the Starbucks drink wrong. Boy, we'll come unglued. This is not what I ordered. The reality I received is less than the expectation I had walking in. Oh, we see this in marriage all the time. The silent killer in marriages are unmet expectations. I expected you home at 5. You came crawling in here at 7, Jack. Make your own food. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated. You can have the keys. Give me the keys to the car. You take the kids. I'm out. That's unmet expectations. It just sits in silence. It kills all of us. It just starts to weigh and weigh and weigh. And sometimes the silence from heaven is the same thing. What is going on? I expected one thing. I prayed for that healing. I prayed for that deliverance. I expected you to show up. I expected you to show out. I expected you to show off. And why am I sitting in a place where everything I expected is nothing that I've received? I'm disappointed. And the worst is when it's uncommunicated expectations. Holy Ghost, help me. I don't want to even deal with this. Silent killer in most relationships is uncommunicated expectations. I mean, truthfully, if you want to take the text for its proper language, all they said to Jesus was, Lord, the one you love is sick. But there was an expectation on the statement that upon saying, Lord, the one you love is sick, that I expect you to now come here and to heal him. But that's not what they said. And we do this all the time in relationships. We just assume in our marriages, with our friends, with our coworkers, uncommunicated expectations. Oh, I didn't tell you to be home at 5. I just thought you would be. I didn't communicate the expectation. My uncommunicated expectation of your behavior dictated this noisy silence, and I'm frustrated that you're not here. Oh, if you wear a title at work at all, leader, manager, overseer of people, however many people you oversee is how many uncommunicated expectations you have. And the title and the position you hold means something different to everybody underneath, and they have all kinds of expectations. Oh, well, he should be here for this. Oh, she should show up for that. Oh, they should be at that thing. Oh, I don't know why I didn't see them here. And you have all the uncommunicated expectations, and Jesus just finds out, Lord, if you would have been here, our brother would not have died. It's not what you said. That's not what was stated. You ever felt like that? Like, if you would have just told me. I love what John Mayer says. He has a song called Say So. He says, hey, girls, if you want more love, why don't you say so? I'm going to get in trouble if I push this too far. He sings it so good, and I've used that in our marriage before too. If you want more love, I just need to know the expectation. If I know the expectation, I may not fail the expectation. I meet the expectation, right? This will be good for marriage talk here later on in life. Expectation and reality is constantly at play. And the silence on all of these fronts can just be killers inside of us. You know, it's real unfortunate when Mary finally decides to break the silent treatment. She runs out. And you know what's interesting? Mary runs out, falls at Jesus' feet. Not Martha. We've already dealt with her. Names are similar. Mary runs out, and she says the exact same story. Lord, if you would have been here, our brother would not have died. Be wary when you hear the same story from two different people because they've corroborated behind the scenes about the unmet expectations that you did not give them and the uncommunicated expectations that they had of you. Same story, two different sisters. Oh, so the offense and the disappointment has festered and lingered, and it silently killed our relationship. Silent killers that we can avoid by communicating expectation more frequently, by meeting the expectations. But as it concerns heaven, there are moments where we sit with God and we feel like, I've communicated. You hadn't met him. God, I don't know what to do. So Jesus actually being a desperado here. He's desperate for a move of God. He's intentional about what he wants to do. It's almost like an outlaw. This story is really sad. Think about losing a loved one. Wouldn't you feel the same way Mary and Martha would? Where you just thought that was enough. Wasn't my signal enough? Wasn't what I begged for enough? Wasn't this enough? And it says, Jesus, troubled in spirit, overcome with emotion. That language doesn't do it justice. The real language there in the Greek defined is to snort in anger. Frustrated. You didn't tell me all this, and now I see all your behavior, and I see that there's something more at play here. And he said, after Mary falls at his feet and all the Jews are gathered around, all the haters like to gather when there's a confrontation that everybody wants to dramatically talk about. So there they are, the whole scene. They're just wondering what he's going to say now. Oh, man, Mary's hot as a firecracker. She stayed indoors until she just couldn't take it anymore. She marched her little self right out there, and now she's just going to bless him out. He's so frustrated, Jesus. He's so angry. He snorts in anger. And where have you laid him? He just bypasses the whole thing. Lord, if you would have been here, he wouldn't have died. Where have you laid him? And then the first shortest verses in Scripture, Jesus wept, take place. They have to walk all the way to the tomb. And he's more frustrated in the whole thing because he can hear all the whispers of the people around him, all the haters. He couldn't even save this man, but he knows how to heal the blind. The blind, why didn't he save this guy? Oh, it looks like he really loved him, and he's weeping and he's walking. You know why? You know why Jesus is so angry? He's listening to all these people. He's looking at Mary and Martha, whom he loved. He understands they're disappointed. He understands that trust is broken. He understands the whole thing, but more than anything of why he's frustrated, why he's crying, why he's mad, is because the silent killer of faith is unbelief. When you lose unbelief in people, it hurts the person. And he's frustrated because he's fully man. And so he walks because he's got a mission to uphold. So he's still on mission, but he weeps while he walks. Some of you just need to hear that today and be encouraged, because I know there's people who don't believe in you. There's people who don't have the faith in you to get the job done. There's people who look at you and say, you don't have that. They're looking at Jesus saying, there's no way, it's too late, it's over. We don't have the belief and the faith in you anymore. We're disappointed. We don't think that we can trust you enough to pull off anything. And he is weeping, but he's walking. It's okay to weep, just don't quit walking. Keep stepping. When nobody believes in you, God in heaven has already set you on mission, and you can keep on walking knowing there's a tomb that I can call out of, that I can keep to my cadence. I can keep on moving towards the purpose and the mission that God has for me, but I'm not so polished that I can't let it go a little bit. Weeping and walking when people don't believe in you, that's all you can do. You're listening to people chirp about you. I don't know if they can heal this. I don't know if he can do that. And we see the cause of unbelief because as soon as Jesus gets to the stone and the tomb and the whole scene's gathered around and they're sitting there, and he says, roll away the stone. And Martha, quick at this, goes, whoa, I don't know what stunt you're trying to pull here, but he's already been gone 4 days. Don't do this. Don't do this. And the odor that would be there is so bad. I love Jesus. He looks at her and he says, did I not tell you? Did I not tell you that you would see him rise again? Did I not tell you that you would see him rise again? See, listen to me. What you see as dead in the tomb, the problems of your life, Jesus simply sees it as sleeping. And we think our problems are all about us. I want to liberate somebody today. Your problems aren't about you. Your problems are about Jesus, because he had to determine which one would he rather be known for, a healer of the sick or a resurrector of the dead. And he chooses intentionally to say, this will not end in death, because I am the one who can resurrect dead things to life. Christianity, again, is not about good, bad people becoming good. It's about dead people becoming alive. And Jesus looks at all of us, and we look at our tomb, and we have our unbelief in our heart, and we go, no, it smells so bad. No, it's been dead too long. Don't try that, Jesus. Don't do that. No, why are we going back here again? I don't know what you're trying to do. And we're just like Martha in the scenario. And Jesus looks at you today and said, did I not tell you? Did I not tell you I'm the resurrection and the life? Did I not tell you that he would rise again today? Did I not tell you that I am bigger than your problems? We need to stop telling our God about our problems and start telling our problems about our God. Because the problems, they're not bigger than him. And we just need to say, okay, God, whatever you want. And somehow Jesus convinces Martha in this moment, because it's not his tomb. He can't roll away the stone. Jesus can only go so far when we give him permission to. There's some things that we want Jesus to do, but it's uncommunicated expectations, things we just wish that he would do, that we talk to our friends about, but we're not even communicating in prayer to him about the things we want him to do in our lives, and we just expect him to show up and show off. And he literally can't roll away the stone until Martha, convinced by what Jesus is saying, goes, it's my tomb. I'm the owner as the family. That's my brother. Roll away the stone. Did you realize because of free will, you have to give Jesus permission to roll away the stone that he wants to heal? All these situations in our life that we look at, roll away the stone. Can you imagine the scene here? Stone gets rolled away. I bet the silence was thick. You could hear a pin drop. Everybody's just looking around. We don't know what's going to happen yet. It stands to reason there's not a person in the crowd that believed that this was actually about to happen. 4 days that this man has been dead. You know Jesus' response to the entire scenario? He breaks the silence. He breaks the silence. And in a loud voice, he cries out, Lazarus, come out. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a recommendation. It wasn't an idea. It was a command. And everything on earth that God commands, it has to take place. And it's so cool because as you study this passage, you'll realize that Jesus had to specify who it was that needed to come out of the tomb, because if he simply said, come out, there would be all the tombs in the region, then all of the rapture would have taken place thousands of years before it was supposed to. So he had too much authority. He had to specify that it was simply Lazarus that I need to walk on out, because if I don't specify the exact dead thing that has to come to life, then everything is going to get chaotic here. God looks at your problem with great specificity, and he's the one who can break the silence in your life. He's the one who can slide in and go, did I not tell you? Did I not tell you that I could raise dead things? Would you stand with me today? Jesus is desperate for a move of God. And like I said, Thomas is there. His name's Didymus. That's his nickname. It means twin. We don't really know who his twin is, but Thomas is full of faith and unbelief. Scholars have said and suggested that Jesus wanted to call Thomas Didymus to say twin, because the real twin to him is us. Moments full of faith, moments full of unbelief, like bipolar Christians that just keep waffling left and right. twin. There's all these characters in the story. There's Martha, the one who represents all of the unmet expectation. Mary, the one who's so hurt and offended and disappointed in God. There's Jesus, who has nobody believing in him. There's Thomas, who's the twin. But the one I love the most is Lazarus. Because Lazarus' name is so cool. Lazarus' name, it means whom God helps. Whom God helps. Whom God helps come out. He didn't just say Lazarus come out, it was a prophecy that could transcend the day. That it wasn't just a moment of silence, that he could break the silence of eons and generations to say, I'm prophetically looking into tombs, I'm looking into graves, and I'm saying, whomever God helps, come out. Whoever needs the power of Christ, come forth. That it's a prophecy that could transcend the man named Lazarus, but so specific that it could mean generally all of us. Whosoever that would believe in him would never perish but have everlasting life. That whosoever that could confess with their mouth and believe in their heart that Jesus is Lord would be saved. Whomever God helps, come out. Whomever needs God's help, come forth. Whomever that God says, I can fix this, you have to start walking. You have to come out in all of the grave clothes and all of the things. That's the message. That there's nothing too dead, there's nothing too gone, there's nothing too far, there's nothing too lost, there's nothing too holy and sacred in your heart, there's no disappointment too big, there is no trust broken too great, that Jesus can look at and he says, whoever God helps, come out.